I did a bit of research, right? And you are a graduate of IIM Ahmedabad, right?
Yeah.
So then why did you not sit for placements after, graduating from a college like IIM Ahmedabad?
My stipend right out of college was 40,000 rupees.
Okay.
And I made this stipend for 2 years.
Can you tell us how the idea of Finshots came and when did you guys start taking it seriously? If given a time machine now, with all the insights and information that you have, would you go back and sit for the IIM placements?
I probably would. You know why? Because
And if given an option, would you have gone back in time and applied for an MBA? Hello and welcome to a new video. Today I am with Shrehith. He is the founder of Ditto Insurance. और आज के वीडियो में हम इंश्योरेंस इंडस्ट्री को अच्छे से समझेंगे कि आपको कौन से इंश्योरेंस पॉलिसीज की जरूरत है, what are some of the biggest myths and how to pick your insurance policies. In this video, we'll also be taking up some of your questions around the world of insurance so that you can make informed decisions and protect your family. Shrehith, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm glad that you've had me on the show, and I've been a fan of the channel as well for a while. So I'm glad that we have this opportunity to discuss about personal finance and insurance in general. Yeah.
So before this shoot, I did a bit of research, right? And you are a graduate of IIM Ahmedabad, right?
Yeah. I did graduate from IIM Ahmedabad in the year 2018.
Did you take an education loan?
I did take an education loan. Yeah, it's very expensive. Yeah.
So then why did you not sit for placements after, graduating from a college like IIM Ahmedabad?
When I joined IIM Ahmedabad, if you had asked me what I would want to do after graduation, I would have told you that I'm going to get placed in a marketing company, I'm going to go through the placement process, I'm going to be an entry-level executive, and I'm going to climb the corporate ladder. But I think after the first year, the sort of culture and the general competitive nature of the institution made me feel like I'm probably not cut out of the same cloth as some of my peers, right?
Okay.
I felt underconfident about myself because at some level I thought I'd made it when I entered IIM Ahmedabad, and then when I was in Ahmedabad, I was.
You realize everyone has a similar competence.
Much smarter than I was, right? So at some point I realized it's maybe prudent if I try to see if there's another way to chart my own career, if there was another way to chart my own path. And luckily for me, I was able to convince myself and my parents.
What has your relationship been with money? The reason why I'm asking this, if I would have taken a loan of 20-30 lakhs to study MBA, I wouldn't have enough risk appetite or enough guts to actually, not sit for placements and figure my EMI by myself.
So I think I was lucky enough in that sense that my parents were not dependent on my income at least. So if I could have figured out my own financials, which I managed to do, what I did was we went back to the college institution and the bank, right, from the education loan where I sort of got the education loan from, and we'd asked them if they could offer us an extended moratorium period, so that I didn't have to pay, right?
Okay.
And they were generally, again, gracious enough to extend that to us because they felt like, okay, students from IIM, they'll figure out something, right?
Yeah.
And I'll give you an example. My stipend right out of college was 40,000 rupees.
Okay.
And I made this stipend for 2 years. So I was on 40,000 for 2 years, right? Making 40,000 per rupees in Ahmedabad and living your life, right? It becomes a challenge. Rent pay 8,000 you lose, right?
Of course.
After that, you probably have to pay for travel expenses, etc., food. You take another 5-6K, right? So you're left with about 20-25,000.
Yeah.
Right? And 20-25,000 pay if you have to provide for your family and then still take care of your expenses. If you're running a startup, you have expenses. So all of us would pool around 10,000 to pay our interns, right, and other expenses.
Out of that 40,000
Correct.
Okay.
10,000 or 5,000. I don't remember the exact number, but we would pull that out. And then you have EMIs. Right? So we would pay about 5 or 10,000 in EMIs. Right? And so you're practically left with nothing. So you have to be very prudent. So at the time, I was also teaching on the side to make a little bit of extra income so that we can support the startup and also, maybe try and do something. Right?
Can you tell us how the idea of Finshots came and when did you guys start taking it seriously?
I went to a friend of mine who was looking to build a stockbroking platform like Zerodha.
Okay.
Right? So he had this idea panned out and he was looking to approach the college and seek a fellowship, right? The entrepreneurial fellowship that would have offered him the stipend and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So he was looking for the grant and he needed a co-founder. And he came to me asking me if I had any tech experience, right? So I had a tech background. I had a degree in computer science. although I didn't know how to code, right? I wanted an exit option so bad that I was like, "Bhai, main seekh lunga, right? I'll figure it out." So I went to him, and both of us decided that we were going to pitch this idea to the college, and the college agreed, and that's how the idea came about. We got serious when we realized that to gain the fellowship, we had to first opt out of the placement process. Okay. So initially, we wanted to be a stockbroker platform.
Okay.
And that's again because idea to सबके पास है, and then we realized we went to NSE and we were like कितना लगता है, and they said कि यार 2-3 करोड़ तो लगता है.
Right, so which year was this?
This was 2018. Right?
2018 is when you guys came up with the initial idea.
Initial idea, right? हाँ. So we realized कि अब 2-3 crores तो it's difficult to raise that kind of capital. Yeah. And we went to investors. We said we want to raise this capital, and back then everybody was raising money. This was this is the start of the bull run. And we'd gone to every investor, because one privilege of again graduating from IIM Ahmedabad was that everybody would give you an interview. So once we got in the door, we would pitch them the idea that there is this, हम stock broker बनने वाले हैं, and they'd ask कि क्या experience है? Like no experience. Okay, license तो है ना? No license, right? कुछ trade करते हो?
कभी नहीं किया.
हाँ. And they would ask कुछ तो होना चाहिए ना? कुछ नहीं है. And then we said okay, traction है? Traction नहीं है. So then we were like, okay, let's build traction first. And then we saw how do we build traction without a license, without a platform. And that's when we started the idea of creating content. And the first idea was to actually write about SME stocks, SME IPOs. Because SME IPOs, nobody was paying attention to it. And we said, to market, to blue ocean hai. Nobody is writing it, so we'll cover it. Within about 2 weeks, we realized why nobody is covering it, because nobody cares about the market.
The market is only not there. There's no demand.
Exactly. So that's when we realized this market doesn't exist. And then we started Finception, with the idea of talking about just mainstream stocks, your Titans, your Eicher Motors, etc. And 1 week, because we needed a 1 week gap to research the stock and probably write about it. And then we thought that will be our business. We'll gain traction this way.
Weekly blogs. That's how Finception started. This was which year?
2018. We started in June. July, I think, is when we started writing regularly. We did it till June 2019, I guess. And that's when we sort of finally cut the cord, because it wasn't generating enough interest. After 1 year, we had gained about 2,000, 3,000 subscribers. There's no business, there's no money, and our license was never going to come because we are never going to get the traction that we thought we'd get. Luckily for us, at the time, we had a viral video, right? Luckily for us, that video went viral. That was the only video that ever went viral. Okay. And so it went viral, and somehow, Nitin saw it, and he asked us if we were interested in meeting him. Now, we thought it was going to be a partnership meeting. Little did we know that he was thinking of investing in the company. And when he realized that this content business was, even though it had no commercial utility, he thought that the blogs were nice, right? So he liked the blogs, and he thought that could be useful to his audience, and he thought
customers of Zerodha.
Exactly, customers of Zerodha. So that's why he invested in us. In that meeting, 1 hour meeting, he basically said, "What do you need to keep this going?" He said, "We need to survive. We can't survive with 40,000.
When Nitin Kamath invested in your company, or decided to invest in your company, did Finshots generate any kind of revenue?
No, I mean, Finshots never generated any revenue, because Finshots came after, this thing. Finception also generated more revenue. It was more like a charity initiative that we believe.
Finception was the name of the blog,
Finception,
right? Not Finshots. My bad. Okay.
And we believed that at some point we could translate our content opportunity to commerce opportunities as well, because we believe distribution was the game, and if we crack distribution, we would be able to crack commerce. So my perspective at the time when I was pitching to people was this, right? But a VC's perspective when they're looking at the business is like, I've never seen a content to commerce play happen well, right? I've never seen, like in the US there are a few examples, but we were in between. We were never a full-fledged content creator, nor were we a full-fledged commerce company, because that commerce layer was never built, right? But once Nitin came in and we had some capital, we were like, okay, now we'll start realizing the pieces. The first change we did was with Finception. We started pushing out more content, which means it became a daily newsletter.
Instead of a weekly newsletter, it became a daily newsletter.
Okay. And we started talking about more than just finance. We started talking about policy, economy, etc. So it became more appealing to a wider group of audience. By 2020, right, after Nitin's investment in June 2019, by March 2020, Finshots had gotten considerable traction, and the advisory piece, which we called Plumo at the time, right, was we were about to launch it. We had teased the product and we were supposed to launch. Unfortunately, COVID happened at the time, right? So nobody was thinking about investments at the time. Everybody was worrying about whether I live to see the next day. So we had to scrap the investment advisory thing, because we realized that this is not going to take off, considering the runway we had. So we had to pivot quick and figure out something that fit in our wheelhouse, right?
Yeah.
And insurance was the only thing that fit that bill, right? And we thought maybe we could probably try our hand at insurance advisory. And Ditto started in 2021.
Okay, so 2019 is when Nitin Kamath invested.
Yes.
For 2 years, you figured out what to do.
Yeah.
You planned to become an investment advisor,
Yes.
but realized that that might not be very fruitful.
Yes.
So in 2021, you launched Ditto,
Yes.
which is an insurance advisory platform.
Yes.
Okay.
So Ditto was a middleman, an agent, right, that helps you pick and choose policies. But more importantly, beyond just helping and picking policies, it's to make sure that there's somebody on your side to fight for you when eventually you will have to make a claim.
But
right?
since like you guys will make more money
Correct.
if you sell more policies, so is it in the best interest of an insurance advisor to actually care about the customer? Because all my life, right, I have only heard stories where the customer has not been treated well once the insurance product has been sold.
100%. Generally, when we started, right, I realized that the market was rife with mistrust against insurers, because insurers have an incentive to probably not pay out claims because they're looking at their own finances. Just like आपने बोला,
Yes.
कि they'll sell the policy and then claims, ठीक है, we'll see. We'll find a loophole, right? We'll probably look at the policy document, we'll scrutinize everything. We'll see that you have a pre-existing medical history that you've not disclosed because our questions were intentionally vague, and then we'll deny a claim, right? So they have their incentives.
And does this happen very often?
This happens often. In fact, this happens routinely. If it's not a claim denial outright, it's a partial claim paid out. Because they'll say, look, this is the rate that I believe is just and reasonable, so I'm not going to pay out a penny extra, and then the customers have to fend for themselves. So as an agent, we realized that if there is an agent, you're right, most people didn't care beyond policy servicing because that was the market. What was the market? The market was, I'll sell the policy, I'll make money, and then I'll do nothing. And we saw an opportunity there in saying that if I could offer customers a better experience, not spam them, not harass them, not make sure that if they say that I do not want to buy a policy now, leave them in peace, right? And then make sure that if they need my help, I go to the moon, right? Then there is a market, and that's how we built our business.
So all these companies have, a very high claim settlement ratio, but you are saying that 20-25% of the times the claims might get rejected. There is a chance, right?
Yeah.
So can you give me a few examples of real life claims जहाँ पे the situation has been very tricky for the customer?
Correct. So इसमें क्या होता है कि when I say 20-25%, I'm saying that most health insurance companies, like you pointed out, have claim settlement ratios of above 90%.
Yeah.
But some of them are partial claims paid out as well. They're not fully settled claims. But then again, the reason for partial settlement could be many. Sometimes they'll say, because we didn't get the right documents, which is the customer's fault. Or in some cases, they'll say, I paid out based on standard tariffs. Because they usually, insurance companies, negotiate prices with hospitals. Saying, ki, if it's cataract, I'm going to pay you this much. But the insurance company charges you more, then the insurer will say, listen, I'm not going to pay this extra, you pay this extra, because according to my rates, this is reasonable.
So one thing that I tell all the people, all our viewers, is that don't just look at the claim settlement ratio, also look at the claim amount settled ratio.
Correct.
Because like you said, even a partial claim would be considered a claim in the claim settlement ratio thing.
Correct. Right? Let me give you a simple example. We recently had a case. The customer says that, I had an eye procedure done, etc. And they make a claim for I don't remember the exact amount, but they made the claim. The insurance company rejects the claim, saying that there is a pre-existing condition based on the discharge summary that I have looked at. It says PG for 2 years, and I believe PG is some glaucoma, something like that.
Okay.
Now we speak to the doctor, we ask him for clarification, because with the customer we get him on a conference call. We like, what is this PG? And he says, no, it is nothing related to this. This means prescription glasses or something like that, right?
Okay.
For 2 years. Now we send the clarification letter to the insurance company, hoping that they'll settle claims. Now they say, no, based on our investigation, we don't agree with this assessment. Once they disagree with your assessment, there's nothing you can do. The claim has been rejected because they now believe that you've not disclosed this PG business. But we know from the customer's point of view that is not true, because the doctor has now offered a declaration. So what do you do?
Yeah, what do you do?
Customers have no recourse. Customers generally then have to plead with the insurance company. If that doesn't work, they have to raise a grievance 30 days later. If the grievance, redressal is not, satisfactory, then they can go to the ombudsman. The ombudsman will reply at their own time. And if the ombudsman doesn't reply favorably, they will not get a hearing. If they get a hearing, they will have to represent their case. And when they represent their case, they have to make sure that the insurance company doesn't have any defense.
Oh my God.
This is what you have to do, right, during a normal claims procedure where there is any contention, any point of contention. What we do is we go to the insurance company and we say that we have reason to believe that this is not glaucoma because we've spoken to our expert internally and this is what they have said. If you do not consider this opinion favorably, I'm going to make sure that I tell all my customers in the future that this is not a reliable insurer, right? Because that is my experience been. And this happens routinely.
As an insurance advisor, what are the insurance products that you would recommend for an individual to have a good, secure life?
You should have health insurance, mandatory. Even if you have a corporate insurance that covers you, I believe that a personal health insurance plan adds a lot of value unless you're really tight on funds. If you have spare change, I believe that you should invest in a personal health insurance plan.
Of course, any day.
And then you should have a term insurance plan because life is precious.
Tell me one thing, can we port our corporate health insurance once we move out of the job?
You can do that, but that also is incumbent on the insurer because sometimes what happens is they'll tell you, I will move your policy to a policy that has similar features but not exactly the same features, and I will do medical underwriting, which means that I will check for health conditions again, and if you have diabetes etc., you will be asked to pay a very high premium. And so what we recommend is that when you're young and healthy, you buy a health insurance policy even if you have a corporate plan.
So when Zerodha invested into your company, right, were there any growth expectations कि हमें हर साल इतना तो CAGR में grow करना ही है?
Zerodha has no expectations, which means that Zerodha is saying, you do right by the consumers and I'm happy with it. We send monthly reports to Zerodha saying, itna revenue, itna profit, etc. They're like, okay, fine. Nitin is like, fine, you know, it's okay. We send a good positive customer testimonial and suddenly Nitin wants to retweet it. Right, because Nitin cares about customers. Whether people believe it or not is a different matter, but truly that's what he wants to do. That's why he invested in Inception, which had no commercial potential. He invested in Finshots, again, which had no commercial potential. And Ditto, even though he knew that we never built a, we had no experience in insurance.
So these were three different investments.
Yes, no, Finshots was one investment. And then there was another, he increased the size of the investment because we said we'll build the advisory product, etc. And Ditto was a separate investment where he committed a sizable check. It was $5 million. And he did an investment of $5 million, not because we had any background in insurance or we had done anything in insurance. This time we had a license, but nothing beyond that.
Tell me one thing. I read an interview, either Nikhil or Nitin, one of them said that funding should not come at the cost of freedom. Do they, people who actually believe in that, do they hamper or come in between your functioning, or is there like complete freedom?
No, never. Nitin Kamath, not once in the 5 years of operation, has once come in and said, you know what, I think you should do this. Like not once, can you imagine? Like not once. The only things that he'll do is ask questions.
This is the Ask the Expert round. A few of our viewers have sent us insurance related questions. First question is from Priya. I am a 32-year-old marketing manager in Hyderabad with a basic health insurance cover provided by my employer. Since I am in an edtech company, I am uncertain about my future in the company. Should I get an insurance policy by myself?
Yes.
And what should be the cover?
I think if she has some extra savings in her corpus, she should immediately buy a health insurance plan simply because of three reasons. One, you always make sure that retail health insurance policy can never be withdrawn, right? Your corporate, you never know. But retail health insurance policies, so long as you keep paying the premiums, they can never be withdrawn. Second is that when you're younger, you generally don't tend to have health complications, right? Your BP is normal, HbA1c levels are great, everything is great. So you get a policy without any issue. You don't have to pay extra loading, extra premiums. So you save a bunch of money as well. And the third reason is very simple. Even if you are not keen on switching, right? I think you should buy a health insurance plan simply because if the base cover did not pay out when you had to make a claim, you will have an additional option in your retail plan. In terms of cover, I think the best place to start would be at 10 lakhs because that takes, it's the right point at which you strike affordability with most coverage, right?
Can Priya or anybody use two policies to cover for one treatment? pay for it.
100%, right? She can include both, and she can use both of those products to pay for it.
Next question is from Divya.
Yeah.
I'm a 36-year-old teacher living in Chennai. I'm considering buying a term insurance plan to ensure financial security for my family. I have a home loan of 60 lakhs which ends in 15 years, and me and my family spend about 80,000 rupees in a month.
Yeah.
How do I decide the cover of my term insurance plan?
Right. So the first thing that you want to make sure is, even in your absence, the 80,000 ka expenses are taken care of on a monthly basis. So if you're talking about 9.6 lakhs annually, you want to make sure that at least for the next 20 years, 30 years, the 9.6 lakhs is paid out, and you account for inflation. So we are talking about 2.5 to 3 CR maybe, in just expense replacement and taking care of other obligations, say your, kids' education, other peripheral expenses that you may have to incur. You also want to make sure that your home loan is paid out entirely, right? So if it is 65 lakhs, you want to add 65 lakhs. So we're thinking about somewhere between 3.54 crores or even more, depending on exactly where you're spending your money.
Thank you so much, Divya. I hope that answers your question. This is the myth buster round. I'll be stating one myth, and you have to basically address what the reality is. You have to tell the reality with us. Okay? First myth: young and healthy people don't need insurance.
Definitely not, because even if you don't think you need insurance, a simple accident, you fall off a bike, you break your shoulder, could end up costing you anywhere between 2 to 3 lakhs. If it's an injury to the brain, it could end up costing you 10, 15, 20 lakhs, which means that this is the kind of money that most young Indians may not have in their kitty, and that burden may have to be shouldered by their parents, etc. So definitely not the case. You probably need a health insurance plan, because anything can happen any day.
Okay. Next statement, you have to identify if it's a myth or not. Life insurance is only for the breadwinner of the family.
That is true, because at some level, I think most people, if you have no dependents, I think you can make an argument that you don't need a term insurance plan. However, the only caveat is that sometimes you may not be able to project whether you will have dependents in the future. And generally, if you try and buy a term insurance plan when you're younger, you tend to lock in a lower premium. So there's the added benefit of buying term insurance plan when you're younger, because you get lower premiums, and the chances of the insurer accepting your application is higher because you're healthy.
Next statement: insurance is too expensive and not a good investment.
It is not an investment, because in some sense you want to make sure that they pay for your expenses when you can't handle them on your own. However, to consider that it is not useful is probably very short-sighted thinking, because most people end up spending their entire life savings when they have a medical emergency, which puts people into poverty, and they'll never able to, many people struggle to escape from that cycle. So I believe that it is a useful expense to have, simply because when you need it the most, you want to make sure that you don't have to give to your life savings.
Fair. And although insurance is not an investment vehicle in itself, it will make sure that all those investments that you have made in other asset classes are protected in case you fell sick and you have a bill of 10 to 15 lakhs. So insurance is the barrier between you, your unforeseen expenses, and the portfolio that you have been creating for your future. And the last myth: term insurance is a waste of money if you outlive the policy.
Again, definitely not true, because if everybody knew that we will outlive beyond the age of 65, then we probably wouldn't have needed term insurance. The point is, there is uncertainty. Where there is uncertainty, there can be life, there can be death. And whenever there is a chance of death, I don't think you should take any risk. I think generally, if you are a breadwinner, if you have dependents, the prudent thing to do, if you love your family, if you love your dependents, is to make sure that their needs are taken care of even in your absence. So if you're thinking that you do not, or if you outlive your insurance policy, it is a waste of time, I don't see it that way at all. In fact, I believe it's a useful expense to make for your loved ones, irrespective of whether you outlive your expected age or not. Yeah.
The risk of losing the value of all the annual premiums is way lower than the risk of not having enough money for your family once you're not around. This is our Fatafat finance round. Okay? You have to answer all the questions. Jal se jal. Okay? First question: one misconception that you hate about the insurance sector.
That insurance companies will not pay your claims when you eventually go for a claim. While this is true, it's only true for like maybe 20-25% of the cases. The rest,
20-25% of the cases.
yes, where they probably will go out and say we need to investigate this further, we probably need more documents, etc. And that's when you have to have an agent. The problem is you never know when you'll fall in that 20%. So it's always best to have somebody on your side to fight for this.
The maximum that you have spent on a materialistic thing.
Car?
If given a time machine now, with all the insights and information that you have, would you go back and sit for the IIM placements?
I probably would. You know why? Because my journey has been like threading through 5 needles at a time. It felt like, and entrepreneurship is generally like that, right? I'd probably go through the placement route because this is extremely risky.
That's honest. I appreciate your honesty. And if given an option, okay, would you have gone back in time and applied for an MBA?
Probably not. Because now I see so many people doing well without an MBA, just following alternative career paths, content creation, some people just getting, just hashing it out in the companies, just really working hard and showing that they have the necessary skill set by gaining knowledge online. I'd say that maybe I would reconsider my option.
And the last question is one great thing and one horrible thing about being an entrepreneur.
Yeah, so one bad thing about entrepreneurship is that the initial few years can be very, very tumultuous, extremely tumultuous. It can weigh on your mental health, it can weigh on your personal life, break relationships. It can really wear you down to a point where you're considering if your life has any meaning also. Like you have those existential dread. Stuff like that. Where you're thinking, what am I doing, right? You're depressed. The great thing is that you also realize that you have people around you who can give a pat on your back and say things are going to be okay. You realize that you have people around you. It can be extremely rewarding at the end as well.
That's all for today's video, guys. Thank you, Shrehit. Thank you so much for, sharing your insights about insurance. In our channel, we emphasize the need of health and term insurance. And aaj ke video ke baad, a lot of people have more clarity about choosing the right insurance needs. If you are planning to buy an insurance, check out Ditto using the link in description and book your free call. Also, if you found anything useful in the video, hit the like button, and if you are new here, consider subscribing. 92% of the people who watch these videos, वो देखते हैं, पूरे मजे लेते हैं, but they're not subscribing. Please guys, subscribe. Your love and support keeps us motivated.